Hello, I'm Jerry Savage, and welcome to this episode of The Savage Edge. I want to talk to you a little bit today about what it means to close sales. So, what does it mean to you to close business? That's a loaded question, right? So, what does it mean to you to be able to get a new customer? Means a lot, right? You make more money, you hit your quota, you add some sales numbers. But the big thing that it really does is build a relationship. You get the value of a new relationship. So how do you do that? How do you do that? I mean, is it, you go in and you sell a product, whatever it is, or a service, and you meet somebody, and you've prepared, and you're going to feature benefit. How much time do you really spend on building a relationship? Because that's what it's really all about, right? We've spoke about that on previous podcasts. We've spoke about it on, what the 4 pillars is all about: honesty, integrity, knowledge, and genuine interest. And by the way, that's the framework for character, right? And that's the framework for building trust. So while you do everything you can do to build your business and get sales and to meet quota, it's a whole lot more than that. I read that the first year failure rate or attrition rate for new salespeople is about 35%. Can you imagine that? 35% of the people that start in pharmaceutical and medical device sales fail in the first year? Why is that? What are we doing as leaders to train people, to mentor people, to bring them on so that they too are successful like you and I are in business, or have been in business, right? I was telling somebody today, I had an opportunity years ago to speak at one of the major companies in their trauma training class. And they had brought in some very bright individuals who had just graduated with master's degrees in engineering. And they were all extremely bright individuals, and I thoroughly enjoyed the time. And I actually got to spend some time with some of those folks in the field later. And what I found out is that they were very comfortable within their peer groups, right? They were very comfortable within their class. I mean, they all had common interests, right? And they were all on common ground. And they were all trying to achieve the same thing. And I'm sure that's the way they were when they were out leisurely, having a good time. But when they got in front of a customer, it was a different story. They froze. It was like, they had nothing in common, and more than that, they were afraid because the person that they were speaking to had years of training as a physician in a field, and they felt intimidated. And you know what? I can remember back when I first got out of the Marine Corps and I started in medical device sales. I was the same way. I was like, how could I know enough to, at that time I would have said to myself, sell that person, a hip or a knee implant. Well, we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but it's not about selling an implant. And I think you're probably getting that. But it doesn't matter whether somebody's 25 years old or 26 years old and the physician's 45 or 50, or been in practice for 20 years or more. It's the ability. It's that ability to find common ground, part of the 4 pillars, right? That comes from a genuine interest in people. Oh yeah, you're going to be intimidated. You're going to be afraid. That happens. As they say about fear, is it's false evidence appearing real, right? It's all built up in your head. So how do you build those relationships, right? So if you're going to walk through the whole process and get to the sale, what I hope for you is that you walk away from there with a relationship, because odds are, if you make a sale, so to speak, with someone and you haven't built a relationship, you can't expect that to stay long term. But if you find common ground with someone, it's a big difference, huge difference. So what is common ground? I mentioned genuine interest as the last pillar, right? Genuine interest in people. So assuming you're honest with yourself and you're honest with other individuals, assuming you have the integrity to do the things that are hard even when you don't want to do them, assuming that you've built an incredible base of knowledge because you're a lifelong learner and you've studied your product and you've studied the competition's product, and then you have this genuine interest in people. Well, people do buy on emotion, right? And they assess you in about 7 seconds, right? I've often said this too. It's a second less than a successful bull ride, which is 8 seconds. And they begin to assess you and figure out whether they can trust you. Now, I know today we're a lot of times virtual at scale, meaning this video, or we're online with a Zoom call or a Google Meet or something like that. People are still looking at you through that screen, and they're looking at your mannerisms, and they're looking at your speech and how you speak, and you want to get to know how you communicate, and they're assessing you. So finding common ground with someone, the way we do that is by being present. Now, from, if you've been watching my podcast, I work with horses a lot, and one of the things that horses, that you can say about horses, is that because they are prey animals, they're always present. They know what's going on around them all the time. And they don't care what you look like, what you wear, whether you've had a good day or a bad day. They want to know if you're present. So how does a customer know if you're present? Customer knows if you're present if you show genuine interest. To ask those type of questions first. Not leading questions about their product or their practice or anything like that, but about themselves, right? So if you're genuinely curious about someone and you're interested to find out more about them, now, granted, based on their personality style, you're going to ask those questions in a way that they like to receive that information. And incidentally, we're going to cover that in a seminar coming up, but you can also find it on my website, 4pillarsconsultinggroup.com, and the course is Effective Communication in a Sales Call. But finding common ground, the way you do that and being present is listening to how that person's communicating in their mannerisms and understanding what their personality style is. I've developed 4 personality styles, non-scientific, that you can use in a sales call, you can use with a Google Meet, anything where you're communicating with a customer. And what that allows you to do very quickly is understand how that person likes to receive information. Whether that person's more analytical, whether that person's a doer, somebody who's driven and is going 100 miles an hour and it's hard to slow down. You're going to know how to phrase and ask those questions. And what does that do? Well, it begins to build trust. Trust. Trust is at the bottom of the pyramid. If you look at Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, at the bottom of that is trust. Because if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. And if you go through the process of a sales presentation and you're doing feature benefits and you're talking about your product and you're asking some questions and you get to an objection, you're not going to solve it. If you don't have trust that's starting to build in that relationship, you're not going to solve the objection. And why is that? Because when you start to build trust, taking it back to the very beginning, you're having a discussion. You're not having an interview. And when you have a discussion with someone, now you can begin to do something for and with them. And Ron Willingham said that in Integrity Selling 35, 40 years ago. Sales is something you do for and with someone. The only way you can do something for and with someone is get to know them and have a discussion. You don't have an interview. You don't do feature benefit, and you don't hope that you found the right product that you can sell them, because you're not going to sell them anything. You're not going to decide what they buy. They're going to decide. You're just going to help them understand what that is and whether that product or service that you're selling is what is needed to solve that issue or that problem, and to help them in whatever it is it needs to be, whether that's their practice, whether that's a service that helps them be more efficient in their practice, if it's a physician, if it's a surgeon, is it an implant that performs better, that does what they need for that particular patient to give that patient the best result? Is it an instrument that allows them to go through the process faster, the procedure faster? Who knows? But you can't decide that, and you can't go in and say, well, I've got this implant and I've got these great instruments, and now you're just gonna put it all out there, and you're gonna show them all the instruments, and he or she all the instruments, and you're gonna hope that they fall in love with these shiny objects. It's not like that. Now, you've got to build a relationship. Relationships are the beginning of a relationship starts with a genuine interest in a person, and then finding common ground. And if you find common ground with that person, you can have a discussion. And when you have that discussion now, together, you can uncover a potential need that they didn't even know they had. So then, when you then start talking about a solution, they're more engaged. And if there's an objection, now you have the right to go back and validate the product or service with a study or with another feature that maybe you didn't show or something like that, or another potential solution within the same framework. But they're going to listen to you at that point. If you haven't done that, they're not going to listen to you. They're just not. So where does all this go? It ends up at a place called a relationship. So that's why I'm not a big proponent of I closed a sale today, or I closed this business. I like to look at it and say, wow, I really opened up a new relationship, and I think we're going to be able to do business for years. I really understand my customer. And that's the key. If you understand your customer, and they know that and they appreciate it, which they will, now you've built something. And you know what? I mean, as well as I do, this is in a competitive world that we're in. And people are going to be coming after your existing customers. They are. They're going to be knocking on the door when you're not there, and they're going to be showing them the next shiny object. But if you built a solid relationship, guess what? That house isn't going to fall down. It's built on a firm foundation. You're not going to lose that business. Or they're going to give you an opportunity to keep that business. But if you haven't built a relationship and they don't trust you, it's not going to happen. I hope I've shared some good things. I'd appreciate your feedback on any of this. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe. And if you want more information, you can go to my website, fourpillarsconsultinggroup.com. I'm excited to share these with you. Until next time, this has been The Savage Edge. I'm Jerry Savage.